forgot my name for a second.
Did you forget your name?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's my name?
Now, I have a lab that's exactly like Zeus, so he's bigger. Well, I say he's exactly. He's a nutbag.
I was fixing to say.
Because if I had to live and work with Chief, we might have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like Turner and Hooch. I've seen that.
Exactly. Maybe not exactly like that.
Zeus, you got anything to add? Okay, cool. Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside Now. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. My name is Patrick, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Glenn Miller and Kevin Bryant.
How's it
What's
going?
up?
President accounted for.
I forgot my name for a second.
Did you forget your name?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's my name?
I was like, did he forget his name? I was starting to get worried.
Say
Did he
my
forget his
name.
I do
Say
that
my
intro
name.
so many times that, like, I don't know, if I fall out of rhythm, I forget where I am.
That is funny.
Yeah.
You forgot your name. I mean, I expected that to happen after the baby, not before.
Look, it's a wild ride already, so.
Well, we have in the podcast room today with us Derek Miller, and Derek is here. And Derek, you and Laura have been coming to the church for a long time now, several years, and you're also a dad.
I am.
And he's known as May and Lucy's dad.
Yes.
So you're going to be Autumn's dad. You're not
I
going
am.
to be Patrick anymore.
That's it.
So due in July 1st.
Very
July
good.
1st.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I'm only a little nervous.
I love how we can keep giving him like parental advice, and fatherly advice with each guest.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
You can figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we were talking not long ago is there a book? No.
No.
I mean, they have books, but you're just wasting your money.
You write
Well,
your own
and
book.
I grew up with 3 brothers, and so I'm going to have a girl. I don't know what to do
same.
with a girl. I have no idea. So I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, I think you figured it out pretty
You can't
quick.
break her. She'll be fine.
You can't. That's true. You can't break them.
That's right.
That's true. Anything else going on, guys? Exciting? You know,
Well, we've had finally had some summer blockbuster movies. We talked about that a bunch.
we did.
Top Gun. Best movie of the decade. I'm already saying it now. Calling it now.
Well, that's
Is it
impressive.
the best movie you've ever seen?
Yes. You remember that part when the guy did that thing?
When he flew the plane? and
Yeah.
that thing happened?
Oh, yeah. It was such a good
Yeah.
part of the movie.
When he was inverted.
Oh. That shot
those
was
of you-
incredible.
For those of you listening, we're recording this before Top Gun has been out, so
Yeah.
sorry, I'm breaking the illusion.
I know.
We're going to be watching it in about 24 hours.
Yes. I'm very excited to see it. So
But yeah, we're recording this a little bit early. And so,
But nonetheless, that's just a thing, you know. Some are big movies you look forward to, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're not so good. But
yeah,
that's one thing.
summertime in the weather
And pools
and pools and fishing and getting out.
sunburns.
Sunburns. It sounds like we're beginning to write a country song.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
All right. Well, Derek, we are glad that you're with us today, and you have an interesting job. You work for the TBI.
I do.
And you have a buddy that works with you in the TBI.
I do.
So tell us about him. His name is Zeus.
Yeah, so I work for the TBI as a special agent, and I work in our cybercrime and digital evidence unit. So that's important to the rest of this conversation. We focus on cyber crimes, obviously, internet crimes against children, and then the electronic devices that are used to commit those crimes. So I have a partner, Zeus, who is an electronic storage detection canine, which is a mouthful, but essentially what that means is that he can detect electronic devices that you can store data on.
Wow.
So that is the storage part is crucial because a TV remote, for example, is an electronic device. However, it does not allow you to store data.
Okay.
So it's missing the piece of the device that he can smell. So any device that you can actually store data on, to include the little gold chip on your credit card, he can smell those storage chips.
that's impressive.
And so his role and his importance for us is, in a crime like internet crimes against children, the digital device is the commission of the crime itself. It's crucial to proving the crime. And without the device, in that particular statute, in the crime of exploitation of a minor, you don't have any evidence. So it's important to have Zeus to ensure that we're able to collect all those devices.
Well, and I'll be honest with you. You knew this, and we didn't talk a lot before, but I am aware of dogs and their hypersensitive smell. I just didn't know that they could detect this kind of thing. Is that normal? Is that something that's, they're obviously trained and all that. Is that something that's happening, or is this, it seems like it's pretty unique.
It's relatively new. In the broad picture of law enforcement, an electronic detection canine is new.
Yeah.
The idea came from the Connecticut State Police in the year, in 2013. They had a really big canine research program, and I'm not sure what the genesis of it was, but they developed this idea of detecting electronic storage devices. They isolated the chemical that the dog would need to detect, and they've written papers about it. Everything I'm telling you is available online.
Yeah.
And as with anything, there are people that have started businesses to profit from that idea. So Zeus was not trained by Connecticut, and they have since quit that program, so they don't actually have that program anymore. But there are some, not many, but a couple trainers around the country that do it really well. Zeus is probably from the best, in my opinion, sort of biased a little bit, but he's really good at training the dogs to do it. So when I got Zeus in 2020, he was number 41 that this particular trainer had trained. I would venture to say that there's less than 100 of them nationwide. So,
Wow. Well, we all have heard the increasing importance of this kind of investigation. It's far too prevalent, but it's definitely something that has become big news in many ways. But that's awesome to hear that we have that in this area.
Yeah, and Zeus and I cover the whole state, so we're fortunate that I do live in Jackson. TBI is headquartered in Nashville. They allow me to have him here out in the region, in the West region, but I do cover the whole state. So this is something that benefits everybody in Tennessee, not just in Jackson or even in West Tennessee. So
yeah. Now Zeus he's a white lab, right?
Yeah, he's technically a yellow lab.
Yeah.
They only have yellow, black, and chocolate. But as you guys can see, unfortunately nobody else can. He is pretty much white.
Yeah. But he's not like chase you down and bite you. He's not like an attack dog.
No.
And he's not trained to do drugs or anything. Just this one thing.
He is. I call him a dual purpose dog because when we got him, we told the trainer, we want you to teach him how to do the electronic storage detection, but we want a dog that we can use with kids. I call him a comfort dog.
Yeah.
He's not technically a therapy dog because he doesn't have that therapy training that therapy dogs do have, but he has the demeanor and personality of exactly what we wanted. We wanted a dog that we could let kids literally climb on him and not have to worry about him biting them. So he has no idea that he's got really sharp teeth in his mouth. He just likes to be petted and cuddle. So definitely not what you would think of in a traditional police canine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those listening, don't worry, we're going to post a picture of Zeus to the Instagram so you can see what he looks like.
Because Zeus is cool.
Yeah.
There just is no doubt about it.
He's got a badge on his collar, which is cool.
Yeah.
He's cool. Now, I have a lab that's exactly like Zeus, except he's bigger. Well, I say he's exactly. He's a nutbag.
I was fixing to say.
Chief could not come in here and do what Zeus did. He's just laying down chilling. I mean, he would. Now, see, and that's my next question, I guess, is because if I had to live and work with Chief, we might have issues.
Yeah.
So how is it working with Zeus? I mean, and you live, he stays with you. I mean, how is that 24/7 relationship?
Part of the deal is that Zeus lives with me just like any pet would. I mean, there are some police canines who may stay at the department in an outdoor kennel. That is the exact opposite of the way that Zeus lives. He lives with me, and when he's not working, he is just like a pet.
Yeah.
The only restriction is that you can't give him treats, and I can explain that in a minute. But yeah, he's a good dog. Certainly just like with your own kids who you love more than anything in life, sometimes you need a break. Having him comes with its own frustrations sometimes, but I don't take it for granted, the opportunity that I have to have him. It's really fun, and I've got to see a lot of things that I wouldn't have without him, and I really enjoy it. So
yeah, I can only imagine because he does such specialized, cool work. I mean, again, for the whole state. And that's, I think that's what people don't think about very often is he's something that our state has a leg up on. That does every state have a dog like
Not
Zeus?
every state has one, but a lot do, and a lot have multiple. Zeus is the only one from the trainer that trained him. There is one in Williamson County, which is like the Franklin, Brentwood area in Nashville, that they trained on their own, but the sheriff's office there does have a dog, but those are the only two in the whole state. So.
Okay.
And I want to go back to what I mentioned briefly. So Zeus is what we call a food reward dog. So when he finds a device, he is rewarded for that with food. So the only way he eats every day is to find devices. Since I've gotten him, he's never eaten out of a bowl. So every single day I have to hide enough devices as if it was the real world to get him the daily allotment of food that he needs.
Yeah.
And that's every day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, COVID, he's got to eat. And so that's what sets him apart a little bit from pets, is that you can't give him treats every day because that would disincentivize him. I'm not sure if that's a word.
Yeah.
It would take away his incentive to work. So, but other than that, he can play with any toy and do whatever you would normally do with Chief.
Yeah. Well, so, he's been stiff in your pocket over here, Patrick. I'm not real sure. You have some kind of something over there?
It's probably my Slim Jims.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt that's what it is.
Maybe he's hungry.
At the end of the day, he's still a dog, and Slim Jims still smell good to dogs. So.
Right.
And something that nobody really knows unless you were here for the particular day is Derek would call occasionally and say, "Hey, can I use the gym to basically train or feed Zeus?" And so he would come in and hide some things and walk through the gym. And I think you do that at other places.
Yeah, I try and get him out and do new places. It's always good to train him even in a known environment, but if you can take him somewhere he's never been, that's as close as you can get to the real world.
Yeah.
And we want to be available and ready when the phone rings. We want to be sharp and ready to go. So anytime I can go, like the youth room upstairs, those were all new scents for him, and he doesn't know that it's not real. Going on a search in the real world is the exact same. He doesn't care. He just wants to eat.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you guys letting me do that.
Oh no, anytime. It's so cool to know that we're contributing that way, and it's just, it's an empty building and no one's here. So I know it's different for him. So that's really cool. Because, we want to help him be the best he can be. Right.
This is the only, police-related dog that I've met. I've met therapy dogs and things like that. But I've often heard people talk when they have in a canine unit or whatever, they talk of them as their partner. They're doing work. It's not just a dog in that moment. They're actually a part of the police force or the TBI or whatever. What kind of...
Yeah, it's just like Turner and Hooch. I've seen that.
Exactly. Maybe not exactly like that, but yes. Is that really how you think of him in that moment? How is he treated as a part of the organization that you're in?
I think it's a little different because we're not going into war together.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that sort of tongue in cheek. I could see those guys developing a different bond because it can be life or death.
Right.
And so I wouldn't say that he's less. I would just say it's a different bond.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't like to leave him. We have the bond that you would have with your pet.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll go on vacation and somebody else at my office will watch him, and it's sort of sad to see him go. It's gotten a little better over time, but I think it's just a different relationship. I enjoy him getting in the car with me every morning, and it's weird if I ever leave him at home. So there's definitely a bond and a relationship there, but I think I would want to discount from a patrol canine because I think it's just different for them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Derek, let's talk a little bit about, because you've come up and helped with the youth and talked to them about computer issues and things like that, things that are going on in the world for, young people and older people in the computer world. And it seems like there's more and more crime that just centers around the electronic side of our lives. Mm-hmm. What are some things that people can think about or do? I think when you think about their kids, parental controls, I think there's a lot of those kinds of things. Are there things that y'all are learning and doing what you do so much? Or, is there some kind of new tip or trick or something that would help a parent out there? Then I want to ask you a question, because on the other side, it also feels like I'm at that age where I'm having to help my dad, who's getting phone calls or something. Right. They're trying to steal his money and, they're trying to do all this stuff. And so it's on the older side too. And it seems like almost like the older side is really flourishing a lot.
Yep.
So help walk us through there and what that world looks like in the computer world.
At TBI, we have two different teams that sort of approach this internet issue. We have a cyber squad, which is what you're talking about, your dad. That's sort of a internet crime generally, but then you have this niche that we call internet crimes against children, which is unfortunately mostly sexual related.
Yeah.
And so those are really two different talks with two sets of advice, and I'm happy to address both, but they really aren't done at the same time. So as far as kids go, I have 3 rules that I give at presentations. I think I gave them a couple years ago here, and like you said, we probably are due to do that again.
We definitely are.
I have been doing this for coming up on 6 years, and I have not found a case that these 3 rules wouldn't have prevented. So it's as whittled down as I can get it. So the first rule is you should make all of your social media accounts private. Unless you're making money off your account, which people do, there's really no incentive to have a public-facing profile unless you're I guess you just want people to be able to see your stuff. But from my perspective, from a safety perspective, there's no incentive to do that.
Right.
You are not benefited by letting people see all of your business. So the number one rule is privatize your account. All of the platforms have that ability. The next rule sort of piggybacks off that. If you have a private account, it requires that you approve people to follow you or be your friend or whatever that platform calls it. And you should never allow somebody you don't know in person to be your friend, follower, whatever that social media site calls it. The problem we face is that kids stare at the number, the follower count or the friend count. Yeah. And there's some incentive there for them to have a larger number. And so they have a hard time following rule number 2. But if you'll do that, you sort of eliminate a lot of threats. And then the third rule is to speak for all ages, you should never take a picture that you wouldn't want the whole world to see. Yeah. Now, for the older high school populations, sometimes you have to get down and just flat out call it what it is. But as a general rule, if you wouldn't want your mom, dad, pastor, coach, friend's mom to see a photo, you shouldn't even take it. And with those 3 rules, I haven't had a case that there would have been a victim. Yeah. It's just a hard challenge to get the kids to listen to that, and if it was as easy as me telling you 3 rules, I wouldn't have a job. So I recognize that I can go to every school every day and preach that, and it won't change a thing, but that is the big thing. And as far as parents go in that realm, I'm always surprised at how I can run into a really good set of parents, a really good family, and their kids still fall victim to this. Mm-hmm. I guess coming into this, I probably thought, well, those kids just weren't told what to do, or they didn't have a good family at home. And I see families all the time that I'm envious of how good of a parent they are, and their child still did it. Yeah. And the fork in the road there is that you have the option to either ignore what your child's doing and let them go, or support them and help them. And that's where the difference is. Those good parents always choose the route of supporting their kids. And I would encourage parents that, it's embarrassing. I get it, but you just have to swallow that embarrassment and be supportive to your kid. I've seen both. I've seen good parents that shame their children for what they've done and the embarrassment they've brought to the family name. And I've seen the same set of parents, it just is what it is, and now we got to fix it. And they call for help, and they sit right there with their kid and get the help that they need. And I would encourage everybody to do that, because it's such a big difference. Yeah. And it's hard. I know it must be. I haven't lived through it myself, but I can imagine that the shame that you would sort of make up, it's not really there, but it's something you put on yourself that you shouldn't. And I know that must be difficult, but it makes a huge difference. You can see it in the child when they have that support behind them to ask for help and to find a solution to what's happened. So that's my advice for parents on that. And then the other side of it is sort of the just general cyber crime, like you talked about with your dad. Yeah. And that's not 3 easy rules, because it's so expansive. There's so many different scams and schemes out there. I could probably narrow that down to less than 10 rules, but at the end of the day, it's all about just paying attention to what you're doing. At a big corporation, they spend a lot of money on training for their employees, cyber training on phishing emails and things like that, and that helps a lot. So training is a huge risk management tool. But a lot of the problems come from emails that a person gets. There's a couple different scams that come from that. There's one that's really heavy in law enforcement right now, and we're still trying to figure out really where it falls. It's called a business email compromise. And what happens there is somebody either steals the credentials of a business, or they spoof the email of a business. Yeah. So it looks like, for example, let's say you get your yard cut weekly by Miller's Lawn Service, and somebody either gets the username and password for my email and send an email on my behalf, or they make an email that looks like Miller's Lawn Service. Yeah. And then what they'll do is they'll send out either an invoice or information on how to pay your weekly bill, and you, expecting a bill from Miller's Lawn Service for the service that you got, send them money. Yeah. Yeah. And that's tough, because you know who Miller's Lawn Service is, and you were expecting a bill. Exactly. But if you pay attention, if you focus on where the email address came from, is this really the email address I'm expecting? Sometimes they'll just change one letter. Yeah. So it might be M-I-1-L-E-R instead of M-I-L-L-E-R. And you really have to focus on that to see the difference. The trick there, just for everyone listening, a lot of times in most email applications, if you'll hover your mouse over the email address, or hold your finger on it if you're using a mobile phone, it will show you the email address. So instead of just saying Derek Miller in the email header, it'll say Derek Miller at millerslawnservice.com.
Yeah.
And that's one way to check and make sure that you're not being scammed. That's difficult though, especially in a world where you get 50 emails a day.
Yeah, exactly.
That can be challenging, but I think that just knowing of the scams that are out there is a huge benefit. That's why the people pay for all this training for their employees. And then phishing emails kind of piggyback off that, where they'll say, hey, reset your password here, and you'll click a link and it'll take you to a website that looks legitimate, but it's really a website set up by the criminals, and now they have your username and password. And that's how a lot of those business email compromises get started, is somebody goes to a website, they put in their username and password, and now they have that. So, but again, just like with an email address, if you'll hover your finger or hover your mouse over the link, or maybe tap and hold the link if you're on a phone, it will show you where it's really taking you. So it may say it's taking you to google.com, but if you look for the details, it's not google.com, right? So it gets much more complicated than I'm portraying, but just making sure you know what you're clicking, who you're typing messages to, that's important in preventing a lot of that. And it sort of gets a little more complicated than that. You have ransomware, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. I don't know if everybody listening has, but ransomware is basically where you unintentionally get some software on your computer that encrypts all of your files. And encryption is just basically a way to hide the contents of a file, and you're not able to get it back without the key. So in ransomware, the criminals will say, okay, you owe us, generally it's a lot of money, but we'll just say $100. It usually gets into the millions if you're dealing with a corporation, but we'll say, you give us $100 and we'll give you the key to unlock your files. From a law enforcement perspective, unfortunately, we generally encourage people to not pay that money. One, you may not get the key after you pay.
Exactly.
You got to think they're encrypting hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of computers around the world. How good are they at organizing whose key goes to what?
That's right.
And then the second thing is, if you pay them, you're encouraging an industry to exist. And so it's unfortunate, because without that key, they tell me not to say it's impossible, because it's not really, but it's pretty much impossible to decrypt that data, and it's gone. And that's tragic. So again, know what you're clicking. Don't download files that you don't intend to download. Sometimes those happen automatically on your computer, but it's usually something that the user has to initiate. So pay attention to what you're clicking on and sending emails.
It's tough out there, trying to keep up with everything.
The more technology is a part of our world, and the more it is an issue. But it's been around for a while. I mean, it's not like the scams. I mean, scams have existed as long as people have. It's just now that they're electronic, and they're always changing and trying to stay ahead of law enforcement.
Started with that snake bite oil.
Now I've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah, exactly. And now, can Zeus, he can find phones and stuff, because I know some phones have SD cards and some don't, but he's no problem with the phone.
Yeah, ultimately your phone has an SD card. I'm simplifying this. It has an SD card soldered to the board. It's the same thing. Right, so the SD card that you can put in some phones is just supplemental to the storage that's already there. Yeah, so every phone he can find USB drives, SD cards, micro SD cards, of course. Most Bluetooth devices have some sort of storage chip in them just for the Bluetooth to operate. So anything you can put data on, even if it's not really relevant to a crime, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know what's on the device. He just knows where it is. So,
Derek, how did you end up in this kind of work? I mean, is this something you wanted to do your entire life? Did you discover it in college, or?
Yeah, I think I flip-flopped a little bit growing up, but it seems like I always wanted to work in law enforcement. Oddly enough, at one time I wanted to be a U.S. Marshal. I'm not going to tell Marshal Miller that, but it is something that I was always drawn to. I just thought it looked fun, and turns out it is fun, but I was just always drawn to it, and sort of my path around that. So I was a criminal justice major in college. I got my master's degree in public administration, knowing that I would probably work for a government agency. And then I got a job right out of grad school at First Tennessee Bank, but even there I did corporate security and looking for fraud from the bank's customers. And then from there I came to TBI. So
That's cool. That's cool. Now, when you look at a lot of images and you talk to a lot of, I know we're not really supposed to use this language in church, but they're creepy people. Okay. They're creepy. So how do you your faith journey and stuff, and, just how I mean, that's got to mess with you a little bit.
Yeah, it makes you question some things. I mean, it's hard to talk about this without getting vulgar, but I mean, people do some really bad things to kids, and kids didn't deserve that.
No, yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's hard to watch, but you have to do it for the victim, and that's really the only reason you do it.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know what benefit that happening has. I'm not real sure why that occurs. Why do people do these things? So certainly it draws some questions in your own mind as to why is the idea and the ability to do this a thing?
Right.
I try to be careful how I say it. But
no, that's
you watch these kids suffer, whatever you want to call it. It calls into some questions for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, it just seems often, you guys see things that the rest of us don't see.
Yeah,
and
for good reason.
For good reason.
Yeah.
But that's just got to be hard over time. And so I think it would be good to have a partner like Zeus, because there'd be days I just want to take a deep breath and pet my dog.
Right.
It does help.
Say a little prayer and, hope to find the strength to get back out there and do that again, because kids don't deserve that,
They don't.
And let me ask you too, we're also talking, and it's been too long since we had a big school shooting down in Texas. So lead us into just a little bit of the investigative side of what might happen. So there's a shooting like that. They found the guy and they knew he was talking on the internet and stuff like that. So would you and Zeus go to his house and try to find more things? How does the investigative side for y'all work in a crime similar to that? Would y'all even be called into something
Probably
like that?
not on that. The advantage to having Zeus on a child exploitation case is that you might have numerous devices involved. The psychology of those cases are that people might diversify the criminal evidence that they have onto various devices. Some might be hidden, others might not be. So it makes a demand for something like Zeus, or for a tool like Zeus, because you really need them all. You really need all the devices. Yeah. In a crime like a school shooting, in the year 22 especially, people generally just use their phone. Computers are starting to slowly fade away, with the exception of business. A lot of people don't even use computers anymore.
Right.
And I'm a little skewed in my world, because in the criminal world, people do have multiple phones, but for the most part, people just have one phone. And now, so you have one device that they do everything on. So if you can phones, I tell people, is like reading somebody's mind in the past. It's like the place where people go to answer their questions that they have that they're not necessarily asking anybody else. So a phone can be instrumental in something like that school shooting, and figuring out, well, what was the mindset of this person that did this? What were they thinking? How did that progression happen? And then from there, there's a variety of things you might need to do, but that's sort of a benefit to us, because now we're only looking for one thing, as opposed to having to search a house for everything. Now, certainly there are scenarios where it's not just one phone. You might need to look for more things, and Zeus would be helpful for that. But the one phone thing is a curse and a blessing for us, because the curse being that every crime has a phone now, and that's the volume there. It gets fairly large. The benefit being that you really only have to worry about one thing to sort of figure out, well, where's the evidence in this? Is the person innocent, or are they guilty? And maybe we can find all of that from just one device.
I guess that shows my age, because I didn't really thought about everything is going to the phone.
Yeah, it's all mobile now.
It's all mobile.
Very recently, and it happened really fast. I just started doing this tech stuff in 2017, and even in that year, I thought, man, this is going to be a lot of evidence that we're going to be getting, because everybody's got a computer and a phone.
Right.
And it seemed like the next year, the computers just weren't coming in anymore. So, really quick, within the last 5 years, I'd say the computer usage for a crime is drastically dropped.
Wow. That's interesting.
No, it is changing so fast. I mean, I even think about with my kids, the only reason they use a computer is to play games.
Right.
So anything else productivity wise, they're using a phone or maybe a tablet, something like that. So.
And from a business perspective, computers are there. You have to have them.
Sure.
A phone has not replaced a computer.
That's right.
In the business world, or in certain industries, multimedia, if you're doing any kind of video editing or photo editing or anything with music, you've got to have a computer. But as a general consumer, it's all phone based.
Yeah. And I know that here at the church, we have still landlines, but mine very seldom ever rings, unless it's like between the offices or something. It's mostly just by phone. And,
right.
So it does, we couldn't do everything with the phone there, Patrick.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Yeah, your stuff requires too much. But there's a lot of that stuff you can do on your phone now, though.
Yeah.
A lot of you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's coming at some level. So what is the working life for Zeus? Can he do this? I mean, I know it seems like with dogs, they have a career length.
Yeah, so the trainer that trained Zeus, I think his first dog still works. That was 2014 or 2015. His name is Bear, and the way that trainer actually got famous, I'll tell this story. I think it's entertaining to some. So the Connecticut State Police came out with this idea, and an investigator in Indianapolis approached the trainer, said, hey, Connecticut's training these dogs to smell electronic devices. Could you do it? Because that guy was training accelerant dogs, and they use accelerant dogs for arson cases.
Yeah.
So if somebody sets a fire with gas, the dog can tell you that there's gas there.
Yeah.
He said, well, I guess I could try. So it took him about a year to figure it out. He trained up the dog. The dog's name was Bear. Bear was a black lab, and he got the dog done. And he said, hey, I've got your dog done. He said, I don't need him anymore. I don't work those kinds of cases. Thanks anyways. Well, this guy's a fireman and a dog trainer, and now he's got a dog that smells electronic devices.
Yeah.
He said, well, what am I going to do with this dog that has to be fed every single day by hand after you hide devices? So he called the Indianapolis Police Department and said, hey, I've got this dog. I don't know if it's useful to you guys, but he's not useful to me, so call me if you need him. They said, okay, thanks. And they called him a little bit later and said, hey, you still got that dog? Yeah, I still got the dog. Meet us at this location tomorrow morning at 6. I said, okay, sounds good. He goes, and it's a search warrant, which a search warrant, for anybody that doesn't know, is just a judge tells the police that, yes, you have probable cause to search a house because I believe that, you have probable cause to believe the person committed a crime. So you can go search their house for a specific number of things. Mm-hmm. So in this case, they're searching for electronic devices. They get there, and it's Jared Fogel's house from Subway.
Oh, wow.
And so this guy, the dog trainer's like, oh, crap, it's my first one. So he goes, the dog finds some things. And when they had gone in the house, of course, the neighborhood was fairly quiet and the police were just doing their thing. And he walks out of the house, and the front yard's full of news stations, photographers out in the street taking pictures of him walking out with his dog. And I mean, it was like wildfire. Like, well, what's the dog doing in Jared's house? And somebody tells him, and he's fighting off business now because of that first search warrant.
Oh, my goodness.
So Jared was a big hit for him, and then Marvin Sharp was a U.S. gymnastics coach that also lived in Indianapolis, and they used Bear on that case as well. So he's gotten a lot of business from that, but that's sort of a long way of saying that Bear, I believe, is still working.
Oh, wow.
So I don't really know what the longevity, because Zeus's food reward, he, in theory, will work longer than another police dog, which is what we call ball reward or toy reward. Yeah. A lot of drug dogs are toy rewards. They find drugs, they get a certain toy, a very specific toy that really motivates them. Yeah. Those dogs eventually get old and don't really care about playing with a ball anymore. So their time span, their lifespan is a little lower. Yeah. I don't know what Zeus will be. I'd like to hope that I get 6 to 8 years out of him. I got him when he's 2. He's 4 now. So hopefully 6 more years.
Oh, that's awesome. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Zeus is the real deal. He's a good dog, and I love his demeanor. He's just chill.
Zeus, you got anything to add? Okay, cool.
Not a lot of words.
Well, good. Well, Derek, thanks for dropping by and spending some time with us today. Tell us a little bit about what you do, some of the tips and stuff, and what y'all do is just so important. I mean, it's just, we appreciate you getting out there and doing that. And Zeus, thank you, buddy. It's always good to spend time with you. And and we will get Derek in with our youth and stuff sometime soon.
And if I can, I want to just say that if you're listening to this and you find yourself in any sort of situation with either, if there's kids listening to this or the parents where they have an issue, don't feel like you can't call for help because of any sort of embarrassment. We don't shame people when they call for help. That's just not the business that we're in. So Glenn's got my number if anybody needs it, or you can just call the TBI or whatever local police department you live by. And please ask for help. Don't wait. You're not going to be able to fix it on your own, I promise. Yeah. I think even if something like that happened to me, I'm not going to be able to fix it without the help of a law enforcement agency. So please call and ask for help. That's what we're here for. We're not here for guilt or shame. There is a good bit of grace involved in this industry, even though the news sometimes doesn't show that. So please ask for help.
Yeah. And they're there to help, to protect and serve and to help. So that's an important thing. And thanks, Derek. We appreciate it. Patrick, we got a lot coming up here. We're kind of in the middle of summer. What all do we have coming at us?
We got June 23rd coming up is the Mothership. It's a mom's group, and they're going to do a paint party. So that's going to be June 23rd at 6 o'clock p.m., $15. That'll cover the canvas and the paint and everything, and there will be a nursery provided. So if you're a mom and you want to hang out with some other moms, make sure you sign up online or on the app. And then coming up in July 11th through 15th, we're going to make some waves with VBS.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's going to be gnarly, dude. Yeah. Totally tubular.
That's rad.
It's going to be a beach theme, which will be fun. That's about all I know about that. But we do need a lot of volunteers to make that happen. So if you want to volunteer, if you want to sign your kid up, go online to northsidejackson.com/VBS and check it out. Also, during the month of July, there will be no Wednesday night activities. Take a little bit of a breather, spend some time with your family, or doing, I don't know, summer things.
Yeah, and that's new too. We've never done that. We've taken a couple of Wednesday nights off, but never the whole month. So. And I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I know for me, after the pandemic, we are all kind of itching to get back at it. I think we just kind of overwhelmed ourselves a little bit.
Rhythms are good in life.
Rhythms are good. So, yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me, and thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
This is Derek.
And I'm Zeus. And that's what's happening at Northside Now.
Bye-bye.